transition caused me lots of grief. My father, my mother, my youngest sister transitioned. But when my son passed, it was absolutely one of the hardest things I had experienced. In the space I found, I was looking for something and someone that could help. Grief is very intense. Moving through it, I learned several things, and I wanted to give back. I got through the grief. This is called Let Love Show Us the Way. Hello, precious mothers. This is for women that have lost a child. And it is one of the deepest experiences and griefs for many mothers, and was for me as well. This is called Let Love Show Us the Way. And love certainly is the way that I got through the grief. My son made his transition in August of 2020, just 1 week before his birthday. And I wanted to give back to women that have experienced this or are experiencing this. Because in the space I found, I was looking for something and someone that could help me with this kind of grief. I had actually had an experience of my father making his transition. My mother made her transition, which was very intense as well. My youngest sister had made her transition. And I must tell you, I have a cat and a dog that I loved like children that caused me lots of grief as well. But when my son passed, it was absolutely one of the hardest things I had experienced. And so in that experience of moving through it, I learned several things, and this is the reason why I'm offering this to some of you perhaps that are going through or still trying to make headwaves and continue your life after your child, no matter what the age. Because even if they're older, even if they're adults, they're still our children, right? My son was my only child, but he was in his 40s. And he passed 1 week before his 45th birthday. But still, he was my child. He was my only child. And still the pain was there so intensely, even though he was an adult. My story is that we were expecting him to make his transition. He had congestive heart failure. And he came to this diagnosis 10 years before he made his transition. The doctors were amazed and couldn't say anything to him or give him any kind of hope. They didn't know what to do with someone that young with congestive heart failure. They didn't know what to do. Most of their clients, all of their clients, were at least in their 50s, late 50s and above. And their whole goal was to keep them comfortable. There was no cure. And so all they were trying to do was keep them comfortable. I remember when my son went the first time and received that diagnosis, and the doctors said, I would go home and get or do whatever makes you comfortable and figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. And he had a young son at that time. That was very important to him, as well as an older daughter. But he was very concerned about that younger one because he wanted to be able to be here with him when he graduated from school, when he got his driver's license, when he first drove a car. There were so many things that he wanted to offer him and be the one that gave it to him. So he did. He had to go home and figure it out. It changed his life and mine, because when you're looking for someone to make their transition, you might say, well, at least you can get prepared. But you're never really prepared for that moment or that second, because we don't know when it is. But it did change our lives. It changed his and it changed mine. And we were very aware and very conscious that we didn't know the time. There was actually 5 years later, after the doctors doing all they could give him and all the drugs they could give him, where they actually put something in his heart. It was a pacemaker with a fibrillator, so that if his heart stopped beating, the fibrillator would jumpstart his heart and give him another chance for breath. But there were many days his breath was very hard. As mothers, we know how it is to bring children here, how important the breath is and the communication between the child and you when you're helping to deliver the baby. You have to learn how to breathe with the surge. Some people call them contractions, but as a doula, a former doula, you have to breathe with it rather against it, because it's a dance between you and the child. And so we became together, entwined in this dance of how much time do we have left. The blessing is that he lived in physical form another 10 years, and I'm very grateful for that. But early on, we didn't know how long it was going to be. And somewhere in around the 5th years, they installed additional things. They increased the drugs and everything else, trying to give him more time. He wanted more time to be with his son. And so he taught him how to drive early. I think he was 10 or 12 when he first put him in the car, put him on his lap, taught him to steer. At 13, he was backing up the car in reverse, and he knew how to park a car. He's a better car parker than I am. But every day meant something. And of course, as he got closer, every moment meant something. And so the reason I'm speaking to this right now is because I know there's many of you out here that are either expecting a loved one to pass, maybe they have a terminal illness, or maybe you're in shock. Something has happened. Maybe they were in a car accident. Something was unexpected. And oh my God, how do you deal with it? What I can tell you is one day at a time. And as I said before, sometimes it's one moment at a time. But I want to share today some of the things that I learned during the process. And one of them was to let the grief come and go. Because if you don't, then you never get through it. So you have to let it come. Sometimes it comes in waves. Sometimes you have a day, a breath, the sun is up, you don't feel it so much. Sometimes you go into vortexes. I call them vortexes because you'll go a place where you were with your loved one before, with your child before, and you'll say, oh, I remember when we did this and we did that and we were with this one. And sometimes it will bring laughter to you, and sometimes it'll bring sadness to you. So you just have to be willing to allow the grief to come and go, and it comes and goes in waves. It's like the water. It comes in and it goes out. And the waves' height comes large sometimes, and it's more shallow at other times. But you have to allow it to be. Don't stifle it. In our country, and I don't know about others, I know about some of them, but in ours it's very hard for people to be allowed to grieve. It's primarily because we are not afforded the time. People can only take a couple of 3 days off from work. Maybe you could take a vacation, but after that you have to go back and you have to act like nothing has happened. You have to get back on the job and do whatever those functions are that your company requires you to do. And if you have a moment you have to stifle that feeling or run into the bathroom and do what you need to do and pat your eyes and come back out, drink some water, wash your face, and come back out like nothing had happened. I'm wanting to create a safe space for you to deal with it and hopefully come on the other side so you can celebrate your loved one, which is where I am today. It is 2024. It's been 4 years. This will be the 4th year that we are celebrating his life. Every year, once a year, we come together and we celebrate his life because we all have good memories and he left us with good memories. So you don't want to be mourning and you don't want to grieve always. But for you as an individual, the time that you need will be yours specific. And I want to honor you for that and ask you to allow that to be. But know not to prolong it, because eventually it can wear down your immune system and make you sick. It can cause you to have insomnia and have trouble falling asleep. And it certainly can change your appetite, which can lead to you losing weight or gaining weight, whichever way it is. So know that this is a process and allow yourself to be in that process and to have that process. But you want to do it for long enough. Some people say a year or 2. Some people have done it longer than that. But one of the things that I want to talk to you about is as you're doing the process, helping with the process, to know that there are certain things that are available for you. And one of them is that if you have a good friend, and I hope that you do, that you can talk to a good friend any and all ways about it. You know, someone said to me recently that they had someone that had passed. And after the ceremony, after people gather, after they have the food and everybody goes home, no one's back with you, around you, to be able to share. And people have actually divorced after it because the grief was so intense. The men really couldn't understand it, and the woman couldn't really explain it. I know another woman that lost or her child made a transition. I like to use the word transition, people, because I want to tell you in the future podcast, I will be talking to you more about how the loss is only the physical realm, that we have another way to connect with their energy. And if you want to know more about that, you can write me at loveshowmetheway@gmail.com. But I want to say to you during this part where you're going through missing the body, the physicality, what is very helpful is when you can speak to or talk to someone else that can appreciate the stories and allow you to laugh and cry. Because all the stories are wonderful, not bad stories. They can be very good stories. And that's one of the reasons why I celebrate every year. Because some of the people that knew my son have stories that I know nothing about. And we're able to come together over food and laugh and cry if necessary, because he did something for them and they did something for him that brings up an amazing memory. And I love it when people can share those memories, whether they're hard ones or funny ones. So I would suggest one of the things is find a good friend that you can communicate with and help you to go through this process. Now, the other thing I want to tell you, there are several people that have written their stories. I didn't have a friend that I could talk to every day, but I did find some amazing books. One of them I want to share with you today is by Iyanla Vanzant. She's well known, and she has a podcast as well, not just about women that have had children that have made their transition, but about many things. And she's well known. But the book that helped me so much was called Peace from Broken Pieces: How to Get Through What You're Going Through. And she has her own story of how her daughter passed, made her transition, and how she got through that grief. It was so hard. It was intense. Not only did her daughter make a transition, but her marriage was falling apart and ended after her daughter passed. She had several things going on, and the end of who EMaia Van Zandt was at that time came about too. That EMaia Van Zandt at that time changed and shifted to the EMaia Van Zandt that we know today, the powerful woman. She had to go into the darkness, and she came out anew and afresh. So I want to share that book with you if you'd like to get it. It was done in 2010, I believe, and is still available on Amazon. An amazing book. There's some other ones that I want to recommend to you as well, but I want to say this last thing before I go, is that we will all make this same transition. And I believe that as mothers experience this with their own children, with their own loved ones, that we can prepare the loved ones after us for the same spirit, the same period. I want us to know that we have 7 generations in front of us that we can affect, and 7 generations behind. That we are available for those that are in the body and those that are not, and vice versa. And so I want to say today, on this day, I want to honor you and bless each and every one of you for the space that you are in right now. And know that I am here for you and with you, having experienced that. I am not trying to say in any way or form that I feel exactly what you're going through. I'm not going to even pretend that. What I can say is I have empathy, and I certainly understand it because I've been through it. A woman that has had a child knows what it is to have a child. And she can speak to any woman about having a child. That doesn't mean she felt the same pain. It doesn't mean that she had the same things or experience going on when she had her child, but she can relate because she's experienced it. And that's what I'm here for you, to have a place that you can go, feel encouraged and inspired, to feel the empathy and someone that totally understands what you've been through, or if you're about to go through it. So I want to tell you this last part, and that there are steps. And some people say there are 5 steps in grief. Some say there's 7. Some say there's 9. But the ones that I agreed the most with was the shock, denial, the anger, the bargaining and guilt, depression, and acceptance and hope. And so I want to tell you today that we all will come to the acceptance and hope for a better life for us and everyone else when we allow ourselves to walk through the steps of grief so that we can fully come through. We as women are powerful women. We are nurturers innately. We come here to give life, to nurture life, to support life. We do this naturally. Some women, of course, are better than others, but we all have it. Men have it too, but in our society, they get bullied if they're too much into being nurtured. But we are always wanting to support each other, love each other, and that's what I'm here for. So my hope and prayer is that you will take the time and do the work to come to the place of acceptance and hope so that we can come together and do it for other women. So I want to say right now, peace and blessings. As Yanavant said, to have peace from broken pieces. I ask you to do that for you, do that for your family, and do it for the world. We have work to do, women, and we can share our story, and we can stand up and give love and be love and let love show the way. So until the next one, peace and blessings. Know that I'm here with you and I'm here for you. Thank you so much again for listening in, and listen again next time. Peace and blessings.